Here we go. And we are live. So, welcome everybody to another episode of Mujer de Éxito Unbounded. If you are watching us here live on the Coach Marty Angel YouTube channel, here's what I want you to do. I want you to, first of all, smile and say hello, like it, and then hit that, smash that bell button so that every time that I go live, you will be notified, which I promise is only about once, maybe twice a week. But the podcast is always recorded on Fridays. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here. And today I'm really excited on the Mujer de Éxito Unbounded, Woman of Success Without Limits, where we get raw and we get real. What I get to share today is the fact that I get to share the stage with a young lady whom I admire so much. And we started out as not knowing anybody or not knowing each other, and now hopefully calling each other friends and able to help each other and for support and things like that. And this young lady is a beautiful young lady. And so, like I said, I'm so happy. But let me just read you, so happy to have her. Let me just read you her personal business. Her personal business mission, before I say her name, is to help single moms start their virtual assistant business so that they don't have to choose between providing and being present for their kids like her mom had to. So she helps single mamas not have to choose between being a mom and providing for their family. This young lady is amazing. She is the CEO and founder of the Single Mom Plan, the Perfect Match Directory, and is a Kajabi expert. Please welcome to the stage. I'm so excited to have her today, Sonia Martinez from the Sonia Martinez. Welcome, mija.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for saying yes. So many people, don't really realize the opportunity that's here on being, on podcasts, being asked to be podcasts, especially when it's free, because I know that there's people paying to be on other podcasts.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
gracias.
No, gracias.
Gracias. So, Sonia, tell me a little bit about who is Sonia? First of all, who is Sonia, and what is your backstory that you went through in order to set up the single mom plan?
Yeah, of course. So I am a mom, a wife, and I am the CEO and founder of the Single Mom Plan. I also have my own virtual assistant business on the side where I help entrepreneurs with their business, which is how I came to start the Single Mom Plan because I know what I'm doing. I know how I started, and I want to help single moms get there as well. For me, this touches my heart. This is really important for me because yo crecí. I grew up with a single mom. It was my mom all by herself. She had three kids. I was the oldest. When she decided to leave my dad, I was about maybe five or six. And so it was she had five or three kids under five. Um, and so it was very hard. It was very hard for all of us. And as kids, you don't notice it too much until you grow up and you see everything you went without and how you look back and you see how your mom struggled, how your parents struggled. But it was very hard. It was my mom working on her own. Vivíamos en Tijuana con mi papá, and then when she decided to leave, nos venimos para acá, los Estados Unidos, San Diego. And so my mom worked two jobs, plus she was going to college, and then she would try to do internships as much as she could, which means that we were alone most of the time.
Mm.
And now it was probably illegal back then too, but now it's like if you see kids by themselves, they're in trouble. Back then, we were little and we were left alone because there was nothing else she could do. She couldn't afford nannies or babysitters or anything like that. So we went to school. She would drop us off, and sometimes we didn't even have a car. We would go on the bus. I remember cuando vivíamos en Tijuana, nos levantábamos. We would wake up at like 3, 2 in the morning, and we
Ooh.
would walk. We would take taxis. We would walk across the border, and then just to get us to kindergarten, get us to school, so she can get to work. And she would take buses, and so yeah, so it was very hard. It was very tough. We were at points where we didn't have enough food. She made it work however she could. She made it work. We weren't blessed enough to like at school be able to go to the book fairs and stuff like that. But we understood. We understood that we just couldn't at the time. And so, times were really hard. We lived in a garage at one point, not a remodeled garage, a garage with like a car in it and boxes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So on a mattress on the floor. So it was tough. And my sister now being a single mom, she has our support. So it's a little different for her. Um, but it's just something that runs in my family and something that I've always had in my heart. And when I see moms on social media asking, "Hey, I'm a single mom. Does anybody know where there's a work from home job?" Anything like that, I it breaks my heart because I feel like I can help. I can help you, if you learn what I've learned, I can help you get to a point where you can have your own business and be able to be there with your kids, not miss out because we didn't see my mom, often. We saw her when she got out of work, and that was late. And I just that's where that comes from. That's where the single mom came from, and that's why it was created because I saw what my mom went through, and they didn't have internet back then. They didn't have these options, and so I want to be able to help and give those options to moms that are going through the same thing my mom did. So that's how the single mom plan was born.
That's a beautiful story. And I just want to say that, um, it just, you never know when you're going to be a single mom. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, and back in the day, I, kind of resonate with you. I didn't come from a single family home. I came from a dual working parent home. Both of my parents were immigrants. So, yeah, I was a latchkey kid, happened to be the oldest as well. And my dad worked, and one of them would drop us off. Mom worked as well, but she worked night shift. So she and dad would, take turns. And but at that point I was like, okay, it was just me and my brother. And yeah, we were what they call latchkey kids, right? So we would come home, and nobody would be home, and it would be up to me to make sure my brother did his homework, right? And that I made dinner. And I was 8 years old and making dinners already. I that was just something that you just did. I think that has a lot to do with the Latina culture. We just do what we need to do. We're resilient. That's why you work with moms, and I love working with with moms as well. But I tend to work with the underserved, the underprivileged, and the underrepresented, who historically is either the Latina, bilingual or monolingual, or the BIPOC woman entrepreneur. And entrepreneurship happens to run in the blood of the Latinas. It's like there's not a whole lot of places you can work in Mexico. I mean, and now there are, but I remember it was like if you wanted to make quick money, you provided a service or you provided a product, right? Taquitos or lechita or whatever it was. It was like, selling candies, or whatever. The point is that we knew from day one that selling is the true key to wealth, right? Selling, and not just selling, but knowing how to approach and stuff like that. But that's an amazing story. And now your mom is very successful, and that's great. And she's still in San Diego, and you're 2 states away, two, 3 states away.
Yeah, she doesn't like that very much.
I know. It's like, okay. My daughter is, just announced that she is going to get married, right? And so it's like, okay, and she's talking about, or he's talking about taking her to Washington or Iowa, and I'm going like, uh-uh, uh-uh.
Like, no, yeah. Yeah, it was hard for my mom.
It was, I can imagine. But let me just so let's get back to I want to read here. You have a personal historia of resilience, and this is one historia that needs to be shared, because what happens is people look at us, even with me, people look at me and say, oh my gosh, Marty, you're so successful. And success means a lot of things to a lot of people, and it's not just a one. Success is not just one, right? For some could be money, for some could be health, for some could be wealth, for some could be happiness, for some could be relationships. But you have a story of resilience. And that's what I love about the Mujer de Éxito Unbounded podcast, is that I get to share stories of resilience so that when people look at you, they look at you and say, okay, esta mujer es bien chingona. This woman is a badass, right?
Yeah.
And so it's important, es muy importante que siempre escuchemos las historias, that we're always listening to the backstory. You didn't just wake up one day and all of a sudden your courses were already done, or your whatever it is that you had to put in place in order to put this out there. And I mean, you've suffered some other things, but your story goes back to your firstborn, I believe,
Yes.
having some sort of trauma. So let's talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind. If it's too personal, just let me know. But I want, especially because if there's moms listening, si te están escuchando las madres, I want them to know that resilience comes in many forms. Success comes, but it comes after you learn to be resilient.
Yeah.
So share your story for us.
Sure, sure. Might cry. Just letting
That's okay. It's okay.
Okay, so when I used to work full time, and then as soon as we had our baby, our son, he was born with a liver disease. It's called biliary atresia, which we had no idea what that was. When the doctors told us about it, it was like speaking another language. And so at his 9-week appointment, his pediatrician said he needs to be tested. I think this is what it is. If it is, I will give you a call. We went to go get him tested. He did his labs. He was 9 weeks old. And so he called me that night and he said he does have biliary atresia. He has to go in for biopsy. And so the next day, biopsies, from what I saw, it's terrible. They did a little hole on the side of him and they grabbed a little part of his liver. And so 9 weeks old, he went to go do that. That next morning, they said he does have the liver disease. You need to rush him to Salt Lake City. So we live in Idaho, and the children's hospital that deals with that is in Salt Lake City. So that's about 6 hours away. Now, at this time, it's just me and my husband and our brand new baby. We didn't have savings. We didn't have anything. And so they're like, you have to travel. You have to drive all the way to Salt Lake City. We didn't have anywhere to stay. We didn't have money to travel. We didn't know what to do. And so that's when my mom came in and she's like, I will help you with everything. So we were able to get a hotel, get funds to drive down there. We drive him down there. So he needed to have this surgery. It's a temporary surgery before he was 10 weeks old. Once he's out of 10 weeks old, once he's done with 10 weeks, this surgery won't work anymore, which means my baby could have passed away. And so, and so we made it there. He had his surgery that following day. It's called the Kasai, and it's a temporary surgery. And oh man,
It's okay. You there are days when you just need to let it flow, and that's the beauty about this podcast is you can let it flow, you can be raw, and you can be real, and know that we're here to support you.
Yeah. Oh man. Um, I tell a story so much that I don't cry, and so it's hard sometimes. So he had his surgery. We waited in the waiting room for hours. They keep updating you. They keep calling. Um, Everything went great. We see him in his room, and we're there with him as he's recovering. Something happened within the surgery that didn't go right, and they had to take him back in again. So again,
Oh
9 weeks
goodness.
old, yeah, and he had two surgeries. Um,
On that same day?
it was about 3 days later. It was about
Okay.
3 days later. So they fixed that. He came back, and we were in the hospital for about 2 months. Um,
Wow.
yeah. Now the issue with that is that he wasn't eating. He didn't want to eat, and they kept putting a feeding tube down his little face to feed him, but he
Mm.
kept vomiting it. He kept throwing it up. He didn't want to take it. And so I kept telling them, I need to go home. He needs to go home. He doesn't want to be here. And so they wouldn't let me go. But finally, I bugged them so much that they're like, okay, we'll let you go home if he eats. When you get home, you have to make sure if he doesn't eat, you have to bring him right back. And I told him that's fine. We went home, and my baby started eating. He just wanted to be home. And so he was on special formulas, doctor's appointments, checkups all the time. Now, this temporary surgery could last forever, or he could get sicker, and then they would have to put him on the transplant list for a new liver. Um,
Mm.
so for about 2 years, he did well. He did start getting sick towards the end of the 2 years, started, throwing up blood. We had to rush him to the emergency room. He had a bunch of endoscopies, blood transfusions, all kinds of things. So his doctor said he's getting sick enough to be put on the transplant list. Um, so he was put on the transplant list. Thankfully, they found a liver for him right away. It wasn't even a month later that he was able to get his new liver. And he's been amazing ever since. You can't tell. You see him and you can't tell. He's bouncing around, jumping everywhere. And I'm like, oh, be careful.
I know.
Yeah. But during all that time, it was nonstop hospital visits, emergency rooms at 3 in the morning, labs. It was so many things that I couldn't get a job. There was no way that an
Right.
employer was going to let me leave for days, months, every other day to do labs, checkups. There was no way. No one
Mhm.
had that understanding of your situation. And so,
Right.
what do you do? What do you do in that situation? And you need to provide, but no one's going to give you that chance. And so that's when I started looking online everywhere. And I could not find anything that worked until I took this class where they teach you how to like start your freelancing business. Um,
Uh-huh.
and I took the class, and at first I wasn't sure if it was going to work, but I just felt something inside. I needed to do this because I need to have that business. That
Right.
business needs to be mine so I can be with my son when he needs me.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so I did the training. It was about 12 weeks, and I started my business. It took a while to take off. It took maybe like 5 months for me to get clients and start going and working. But I finally did, and I figured out that I just had to be confident, be myself, just show them what I could help with. And I was scared at first, but once I just let my personality come out, um, I started getting the clients, and I started building my business. And now it was since 2019. I'm a few years in. And I've had so many clients that I work with, so many women, because I work with women. They're
Mm.
amazing entrepreneur women that I love so much. And so I want to teach single moms and moms to do the same thing
Right.
because, like I said, this is catered for single moms, but
Mhm.
all moms are in different situations. I
Yeah.
was a single mom, but I was in a situation where I needed to take
Right.
time for myself.
That's
So
amazing. Phew.
it's a lot.
Let me ask you this. How long has it been? How old is your son now?
He's 8. He's 8. Yeah,
So this was 6 years ago, huh?
6 years. Yeah.
And so far so good.
So far, so good. He rejected one time, but they caught it so early that they just gave him some fluids through the IV, and he was fine after that. He's never rejected, and we still do labs constantly. He still has his checkups in Salt Lake City. Yeah, so he's. I mean, I'm paranoid now, but
Amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. You're amazing. Eres una mujer chingona.
Gracias, gracias.
So it's so important for, I always think it's so important, es muy importante que siempre demos la historia, porque nada más te ven y dicen, oh, esta chica ya sabía, o esta chica ya, o lo que sea, ¿verdad? And so people look at us and go, they only see what you are right now, but they don't see what you've gone through. They don't have any clue what it's like to do, but they're quick to judge, to do what you do. And the beauty is you stuck with it. I don't believe in get rich quick schemes. I don't believe in the fact that there's an overnight success, right? Because before it becomes an overnight success, you've worked it, you've launched it, you've pre-launched it, you launched it, and you've worked it. And, it's all about not just creating it and they will come, but create it, market it, and learn to sell it, and then they'll come,
Yeah.
right?
You have to nurture it. Yeah.
And so it's so important. And let me ask you this. Have you taken a look at how many of your girls or your women, and, once they go through your course, do you help them get a job, and how many of them are bilingual?
Okay, so once they finish the course, I have a directory. It's called the Perfect Match Directory, which entrepreneurs or business owners go in there and they look through a category of the type of virtual assistants that they need. So, copywriters, social media managers. When they complete the course, I put them in that directory, which you'll see virtual assistants in there, and they are able to go in there and find them. Now, I know a lot of business owners, and so I do my best to help them connect with those business owners. I
Mm.
don't want to just leave them and then figure it out. Like, it took me 5 months to find my first client because I
Right.
didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where to look. So since I have those connections, I want to make sure that those connections know about these women.
Uh-huh.
And so far, most of them have been like 90% have been bilingual. And I've had a lot of reaction with women that want the course in Spanish. So I am going to try to work on that right away so I can get those women that speak Spanish only and help them find those entrepreneurs to help them with their
That's
business.
so important. I really believe, as a Latina biz coach, um, I've always been known as the empowering Latina coach, but as a biz coach, that's what I focus on, is business, right? Business and changing the mindset and stuff like that. But what's really important is that we get, to the underserved, the underprivileged, and the underrepresented. I know I say those three words all the time. As an educator, I was always placed in the schools where we had the underserved, the underrepresented, and the underprivileged. It was always the same people I'm serving now: Latinas, right? The Latino community,
Mhm.
bilingual or monolingual, and the BIPOC, right?
Yeah.
So it was really important for me to be able to continue that, because my vision is to empower and leave a legacy of Latina leaders behind me that will empower other Latina leaders, because the only way to get ahead is to empower others to get ahead.
Yeah.
And that's what I really, and it sounds like you're doing the same thing. You've had some, challenges, personal challenges as well. And you're resilient. Resilience is one of the things that we as Latinas have in a higher degree
Mhm.
than our white counterparts. And
Right.
that's what a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah.
Right. Because the saying is that, in English, where there's a will, there's a way, but that sounds very passive.
Yeah.
Passive. But in Spanish is tú sigues hasta que puedas.
Hmm.
In other words, you keep on until you succeed. You may have to change, but tú sigues hasta que puedas. I remember my dad would always say that, tú sigues hasta que puedas. Tú
Yeah.
sigues hasta que puedas. And I was like, yes, yes, daddy, yes, daddy. It's like,
Well, you listen. You listen.
right? And so, it's so different. They try to, bulk us all together, but, yeah, I have so many. So I love group coaching. I know that, I can do a one-on-one coaching. I don't shy away from that, but I love the group coaching aspect because I get to really empower people to learn how to work together, just like when I was introducing the Socratic seminars in my, algebra courses, right? And I was teaching ESL, Socratic seminars to ESL students, and the majority of them were all immigrants, first generation immigrants, and I remember so often I was told, don't speak Spanish to them. Do not speak Spanish. And it was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So, now nobody can tell me not to speak Spanish, and I find that Spanish is an asset.
Yeah. I
It's
agree.
not a hindrance. It's not a hindrance, but it's so important. Now, tell me a little bit about, okay, so you have created a course,
Mhm.
probably one or two courses, and and that's the course that you kind of sell to people. How does somebody that isn't sure if social media is for them, if social media management is for them, do you have something that they can kind of, maybe a quiz or something that they can kind of take, or do you offer a strategy session? What do you do?
So I don't, only because the course isn't focused on a specific service. The course is focused on how they're going to start their business, the steps they need to take. I walk them through the platforms that most virtual assistants use, that I use to this day. I walk them through the platforms that most business owners want you to use for them to help them within their business. So I leave it open to them, and I do talk to them about this in the course. I have like a huge list, and I show them exactly what, like in detail, what every service does. So what every social media manager, copywriter, web designer, what they do. And it's up to them to figure out what they feel comfortable with learning, what they already do, maybe because if they're already working and let's say they already do administrative stuff, they're obviously going to feel very comfortable in the admin area, which would be an administrative virtual assistant. So I talk to them about all of that and how they can choose and pick whatever works for them. And I do have a long list that I provide to them, showing them the details, and then they decide which way they're going to go. Now they're always able to jump on a call with me and we can talk about this, and I can guide them as much as I can, but I want them to feel comfortable with their decision. I don't want them to just jump into something thinking, oh well, they make a lot of money, or I think I can do this, and not feel comfortable once they start.
Mm,
So yeah, so it's a lot of completely starting from a blank space. So
right. Right. And that's amazing. That's really good. I'm glad that you offer that. It's so important. I know that for me, I also started a course when I was a college professor, that I was in the what is it called, extended courses, and I created a how to be, social media 101, how to be what is it that you want to do, and just a really, it's not in depth, kind of like you put together, but this was more of an exploratory, that's why it was called social media 101, right? And, because we all know how the colleges work in the 100s and the 200s. And by the time you get to the 400 and 500s, you're in your course of study, right? But before that, you've got to do a lot of the general stuff. So it was like, okay. So, and I was starting out my business and it was like, okay, I need somebody. I was lucky enough to have, I hired somebody from Mexico and and then she learned from me, I learned from her, and she helped me and I helped her, and she ended up having to leave me because I taught her how to be an extended studies professor.
Oh, nice.
So it was like, so she got a job at the college over in Mexico, and she was like, "Oh, thank you so much for helping me." And I'm going like, okay, well, I just showed myself out of a virtual assistant
Oh no.
because she was amazing. She was amazing, and she'll continue to be amazing. But at least, she took what all the learnings that we had, and she's putting it to use over there in on site on campus, right? So
You,
it's
yeah.
she's over in Piedras Negras.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, so you never know who you can help, you never know what can come of it. But yeah, so now one of the things that is also important for the people to hear is that you said it took 5 years, no, 5 months, excuse me, 5 months to really get, you know, yourself out there marketing and all of that. And that's important because so many people think, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to post every day for 2 weeks on Instagram, and then I'm going to go viral, and it's all going to get done. And then I'm going to sell to everybody. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. Right.
If you get lucky, that works for you, but that's not how it works.
Yeah, that's the majority of the times it's not how it works. I mean, let's look at the stars. How many times don't you know that? I mean, you find out that stars had, 2, 3 jobs while going to acting school, and doing all of that. It takes work. It's like anything. I really think that the whole premise behind being successful, it's not about the success you get at the end. It's about the journey. What are you learning, and how can you share your learnings with others so that they can benefit as well?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It is, you have to put in the work. I did. I made a lot of mistakes while I was trying to, because I wasn't guided. It was just kind of like, okay, go find people to help. And
Uh-huh.
I was very frustrated. It took me a long time. And I
Mm.
was telling my husband, I don't think this is going to happen. And thankfully, I got one client, which I loved so much. And from there, I got that confidence. I felt like I knew what I was doing, and you just need that one client to make you
Yeah.
feel like, okay, I can do this. And that changes your whole perspective. And so, yeah, it does take work, and you're not going to get that client that first day. I don't think anyone does. But that's why I created this course. I want to help as much as I can. I don't want them to take the course and just leave them and be like, "Well, good luck. Thanks for taking my course." I want to be able to help. I want to make a difference. I want to hear their stories afterwards of them being like, "Oh my gosh, I get to stay home with my babies," and I just yeah, I just want to help. And so I believe in the hard work you have to put in. It's not, like you said, not a get rich quick scheme. You're not going to take it and then make thousands of dollars the next day.
Right.
But we all have to put in the work. And so as long as they're willing to, which all these women that have taken the course are, and I'm so proud of them, you'll get there. So
Yeah, so amazing. You have found a niche and are fulfilling it, and I'm so proud of you. It's just been amazing to watch you blossom, and and I I do have time to kind of check on my little friends online and stuff. And the beauty about this is that you can be anywhere in the world. You can be anywhere, you can be anyone, and you can do it. And, and you said it was for moms. And so one of the things that, that I'm finding now that I'm older is also too, people that want to leave their jobs and they're over the age of 55.
Oh, yeah.
And they're feeling like there's nothing I can do anymore. No one's going to hire me. I don't want to go find a new job. I hate the job I'm at and I don't want to be here. I would rather be doing something. And that's, and that's another void. And that's the market that I'm really contemplating going after with my social media, being that I'm in the senior category now.
Beautiful senior.
Oh my God, I'm in the senior category. So my daughter says, "Mom, let's take Dad to the movies and on Father's Day." And I said, "Okay, buy the tickets." And then so they're buying the tickets, right? And then my daughter says, "Oh, Mom, by the way, should I get senior tickets for you guys?"
Hey, discount.
I said, "Is it discounted?" Yeah. Well, then definitely, right? But I see so many women, that are like, yeah, I mean, I was at my husband is the CFO of a microfinance lending company. And so they just expanded. So their target audience is the Latinas and entrepreneurs, the same target audience that I have. They're accessity.org. And they had an event because they actually have a grant from Eva Longoria, right? And so Eva Longoria gives to them. And so they had, for the first time, the first Mujer Entrepreneur event in Spanish here in San Diego. The next one's going to be in LA because they lend in all of Southern California. And it's amazing how many women were there, and we're all bilingual, fully bilingual. I mean, the majority of us, I think there was maybe 10% of the women that came from Mexico, from Tijuana in that area. And it was all in Spanish.
Beautiful.
It was amazing. But one of the things that I did find out is that there's a lot of women over the age of 55 or 50 or getting close that are ready to leave their jobs, and they don't want a hassle. They want to be able to take care of their grandkids. They want to be able to go and travel wherever their grandkids are, but still be able to make some money. And I'm not talking about they want to make a big income, but $2-3 grand a month, that would give them the ability to do whatever they want. And I was like, ooh, my little brains were ticking, right? And I thought, ooh, being an educator, and I've already created courses, and I love the stuff, and I'm thinking, ooh, my little entrepreneurial mind, ¿verdad?
Yes.
And I'm going like, man, there is a big market out there because the majority of the population right now, believe it or not, is over the age of 50. And so those are the ones that we also need to focus on and help. So, it's just like, it's amazing. But you are so incredibly talented. You are so incredibly resilient. You are so incredibly just out there. You are actually blazing a trail for others, and it's just amazing to watch you and how your heart. I tend to attract servant leaders. I'm a servant leader, so I tend to attract servant leaders. And I'm, the good thing is that, I'm able to find guests like you that are servant leaders. You're not going to believe it, but I get emails every day of people that have assistants that say, hey, my boss is so and so, and she would be great to have on your podcast, because those people are smart. They know that being on a podcast is free advertising, especially if it's free. And right now, it's free, right? It's free to be on my podcast. So it's interesting how many people I have to wade through
Yeah.
in order to get the right person, because I'm looking for that servant leader, right? I'm looking for that servant leader because we have a heart that el corazón de servidoras, as we say in Spanish, el corazón de servidoras.
Yeah, I think that's why you attract me so much. It's just right from when we met. I just knew it. I just love you so much. So
Oh, thank you. You're such a sweetheart. And so let if somebody wants to find you and maybe take your course or ask you questions, I know that underneath here on the Coach Marty Angel, I'm going to put your link, but also it'll be on the show notes. But where can they find you? Why don't you go ahead and say it out loud?
So on social media, you can find me under at the Sonia Martinez. But you could also go to my website, and it's Sonia-Martinez.com. And there you can find the directory. You can find my virtual assistant services. You can find the single mom plan. So everything's all put into that one website. So it's easy to find me.
That's amazing. And you are on what time zone?
I am Mountain Time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfecto. That's right, because you're in the mountain zone now. Ya te fuiste del Pacífico, nos dejaste. No,
Sorry.
don't make it sound like your mom. Nos dejaste, te fuiste.
I have both of you coming after me.
So it's like, yeah, I know. And then one of the things with Latina moms is, man, we know how to really, I think we're experts at the guilt trip.
The guilt trip, yes. She's terrible all the time. Well, if you lived here, or I have a big backyard, can you make me a house so I can come and visit? Yeah, she's terrible at the guilt trip. She's like, if my kids, her grandkids, if you guys lived here, I'm like, oh goodness. So yeah, she's ready for us to come home.
I know, it's so beautiful, but at the end of the day, you're not too far away, only 2 states away, right?
Yeah.
You have to go up through California into Oregon and then over to the left, right?
It's only like a 15-16 hour drive. Not that bad.
Right? It's just as far away, drive, right? As to Brazil, let's say, air flight to Brazil, right? It's 13 hours over there. But yeah, you're doing amazing things. Miss Little Sonia Martinez, you have come through with flying colors. You're a mujer de éxito unbounded. And that's exactly, you are the epitome of the title of this podcast. And I just want to say, thank you. Gracias por estar aquí. Gracias por bendecirnos este día con toda tu sabiduría, with all of your wealth of knowledge. And I really highly encourage all my listeners, if you're even so just thinking about becoming a social media, maybe you're toying with it, maybe you're not sure, please reach out to Sonia. As I said before, the links will be here underneath the video. And remember to like and subscribe so that you always get it. And also in 2 weeks, on June 30th, it'll be dropped in all of the airwaves, because I'm everywhere that they have a podcast. You're going to find me. I'm part of the Latina Podcasters Network. So I'm everywhere, right? That's what that's my daughter says, Mom, you're not on Twitch yet. I was like, okay, that's going to be a goal. It's over here. Twitch next.
Coming up next.
Right. And so, yeah, so I have 2 gamer daughters, right? And so they're like, one of them's a gamer streamer, and that's another world.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Whoa, talk about cosplay and all of this stuff, and it's like, whoa, okay. So one of these days I'll have her on, because she is an influencer on the streaming platform for gamers.
Well,
So
he would love that. He would be on your show watching her. So
I know. And so, ironically, as a Latina mom growing up and being an educator and a principal and all of this, I remember yelling and saying, don't play games. Only do whatever is going to bring you money and, invest your time in that. Da, 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 da. And now it's like, Mom,
I need an apology.
it's like, okay.
That's so funny.
Oh, gosh. Sonia, it has been a beautiful time having you on our podcast, on the podcast. As always, I'm so incredibly grateful for you and each and every one of your listeners that you will, and each and every one of my listeners as well. And I just want to say thank you so much for being on. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
I know. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I love being here, and I love you so much. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So much
All
fun.
right. So, adios. Que Dios nos bendiga. So, here we go.